Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the NXT Podcast. I'm your host, Skelly Bones, here on the No Holds Barred Network, bringing you all the NXT news, reviews, and more every Friday, and NXT previews every Tuesday. And we'll start with a recap of last week, which had the Walter Kushida main event, which was a really great match. We had Lio Rush winning the Cruiserweight Championship to open the episode. You had a really great match between Isaiah Swerve Scott and Roderick Strong, which also had the Velveteen Dream and Ciampa promos afterward. Velveteen Dream calling out Roderick Strong, and Ciampa calling out Adam Cole for the NXT Championship. While those were the highlights, we also had a couple low lights and not so high spots. You had the Rhea Ripley squash match. There was really nothing wrong with it, but it was just an okay match. Had the Breezango Forgotten Sons tag match, which was also kind of whatever. Bianca Belair and Dakota Kai had a match. Cameron Grimes had another squash match that was 5 seconds long with Boa that led to Boa getting killed by Killian Dane. That was my most what the F moment of the show, because I just feel like I don't know what they're doing with Grimes. I'm kind of really disappointed with his character development and the matches they're having him have. Other than that, I think like I said, Walter Kushida, Lio Rush and Gulak, and Strong and Scott, those matches were strong enough to carry this episode. And coming out of this episode, one of my favorite news segments on WWE's Twitter is the injury report. So sometimes they do have real injuries. Mostly it's kayfabe stuff for the episode. And we're going to go through the 3 injuries they focused on after this episode. Number 1, Kushida is day-to-day. He claims to re-aggravate a wrist injury he had going into his match with Walter. Both members of Everrise are also listed as day-to-day after they were murdered by Jackson Riker and the other members of the Forgotten Sons. And Boa is listed as having a rib injury and also day-to-day after he was attacked by Killian Dane after his squash match with Cameron Grimes. So that covers it for the post-match injuries, and we're going to go ahead and get into a preview of the October 16th episode of NXT. We have 4 matches announced. First up is Pete Dunne versus Damien Priest. Priest attacked Dunne from behind in his last match. This is setting up their match for this week. We're also going to have the rubber match, even though it's technically the 4th match, of Keith Lee versus Dominik Dijakovic. So it should be a good match. We've seen it 3 times already. If you've been watching NXT, you've already seen it once. If you just started watching the live episodes on USA. So, I think I highly doubt these guys are going to have a bad match, but again, for someone who's seen this match 3 times already, they're going to have to pull something off pretty spectacular to make this one stand out to me. But if anybody can do it, these 2 guys can, so I'm excited to see that match still. And then also we're going to get the return of Tegan Knox, who's been out with the injury for about the same amount of time as Dakota Kai, actually. In her return hype vid, they actually showed them both rehabbing together and training together. So it looks like they're focusing on her and going to give her a big push when she comes back, so we'll see what happens with Tegan Knox. I have a strong feeling she's going to get the win in her return. Let's see if she fights Aaliyah or Vanessa Bourne. We also have Tommaso Ciampa returning to take on Angel Garza. This is going to be Ciampa's first return to the ring in over 6 months, I believe, since he was out for his neck injury. I'm still in shock that this match is happening, and it's going to just happen on a random episode of NXT, but like I said, I'm highly skeptical that this match is going to be more than a squash, if anything. I'll be shocked to see Ciampa take a bump, but we'll see what they do. Like I said, this seems like more of the shock and awe kind of promotion that they're using just to attract viewers, to get more people to tune in. Which, I mean, obviously you have to do. You have to put something out there that's going to draw in some fans and pull people away from AEW. And I think this kind of leads us into one of my new favorite segments, the Wednesday Night Wars. I'm just going to break down a little bit of the ratings between AEW and NXT over the last couple of weeks. Really the last two, because that's all there's been so far. And then just get a little bit, not too detailed into maybe the goings-on of AEW and what NXT is going to have to do with them going head-to-head. So, talking strictly ratings-wise, AEW has won for the last 2 weeks. In the October 2nd show, AEW did a 1.4 million rating, while NXT did a 890,000 rating in terms of total viewership. In last week's October 9th episode, AEW did 1.018. I'm just going to call that a 1 million, while NXT did a 790,000 viewers. Both shows were down. AEW down almost 400,000 viewers. NXT down about 100,000. So we'll see where they go into this episode. Are they going to remain on a downward trend? Is the return of Tommaso Ciampa going to be enough to bring some viewers back? And on the other side, on AEW, is having their championship defended on their television going to bring in some viewers with the Chris Jericho Darby Allin match? So it'll be interesting to see. I'll have a breakdown on Friday when I have the numbers from both shows, and we'll see how each episode did. This was kind of a slow week. Well, not a slow week, but slower in terms of how much I had to do the previous week with all the stuff going on with the NXT going up against AEW Live and SmackDown and Hell in a Cell and all that craziness. So I had a little bit of extra time, and I figured I wanted to focus on some of the more independent guys that I think deserve some recognition. And of course, my favorite thing is wrestling Twitter. The guys who do it well are really great, in my opinion. I think Oni Lorcan is killing it right now. But one of the more independent guys who I think really deserves some attention, and I think he's going to start blowing up pretty soon because he's amazing, is Warhorse. He's currently the independent wrestling TV champion. He's also the 0-1 Heritage champion, as well as many other accolades in his career. I first became aware of Warhorse about a month ago when he was in the Black Label Pro TurboGrafx 16 tournament, and he defeated Eric Stevens to become the IWTV champion. And it was pretty much after that I started looking into his back catalog and his Twitter more in depth, and just really fell in love with his character, and just his personality is great. Some may flaw him as being an Ultimate Warrior wannabe, but I feel like the people saying that are just they wouldn't want to get the gimmick to begin with. It's it's really fun and involves a lot of capital letters, a lot of ruling ass, and I'm just gonna leave this episode with a Warhorse promo and some motivation for you guys to get out there and start your day.
Hey, get your ass up! It's time to go to work! Come on, get ready! Go, 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 go!
He shares his thoughts on workday motivation.
Hey, it's Warhorse, and yeah, Warhorse knows the week's been dragging on. It's been a little slow, but that's no excuse to give up early. That's no excuse to do a bad job. Warhorse needs you to do a good job today. Do the best you can. Give it your all. And don't do it just for the Warhorse. Do it for you. Do it for yourself. Because self-satisfaction is one of the greatest joys you can experience.
He also shares his feelings on proper sleep etiquette.
Hey, what are you doing up? We've been over this. It's time to go to bed. You have work in the morning. Warhorse doesn't know what you think you're up to, but it's time to go straight to bed.
So on that note, I think it's going to wrap it up for us here at the NXT Podcast. Make sure to follow the No Holds Barred Network on Twitter at NHB Network. Make sure to follow our brother and sister podcast, the All Elite Podcast, at All Elite Pod. Make sure you follow me, your host, Skelly Bones, at Bones_Skelly. And make sure you follow the Warhorse at JP Warhorse so you can get some more motivational speeches from him every day. So thanks again for checking us out, and I'll see you this Friday with the NXT review and report.